Okay, so hopefully everything sounds a-okay. Still, I'm always paranoid when I hit the button to come off the starting soon, because it the starting soon button is supposed to have my mic muted, but the go chat the just chatting is supposed to have the mic unmuted, and sometimes it doesn't always. So if you can't hear me, let me know. Welcome back. It's Thursday night. Time to be live. If you're new, thanks for popping in. If you've been here before, thanks for coming back. Appreciate it. Why is that highlighted? There we go. My name is Susan. The S in Slangel Designs. I think you can figure out the rest of it there. You hear me? Perfect. Perfect. You'll notice I have the overhead camera set up. I noticed it has to be dusty a little bit, so don't pay attention to that part. I didn't get to that part. I have the overhead camera set up because I'm going to show you something I was working on. You can kind of off to the side. Got my trusty sewing machine out because I wanted to get a couple of steps done to show you what I'm talking about to do with this fusion quilting, which involves quilting and crocheting together. So I'm not the best sewer. I can manage, but I'll show you this here in a minute shortly. Let's just say I got the first one done. I learned kind of like part of it done to where I needed to be so I could show you stuff soon. I learned a couple of things when I was trying to do the first square, the sewing part, that I will carry forward with the other ones, which is good because I'm going to be making 25 squares, which we'll get to put together in a blanket, whether it be 5x5, it could end up being 6x4, and then I'll have an extra one, which I could maybe make a bigger trim and make a pillow or something. So we'll see. I had to go hunting. I have a sewing box that my mother-in-law gave me years ago that had a bunch of quilting supplies in it. And I was trying to use, I don't know if you can see, I was just trying to use a regular old yarn needle, which isn't very pointed. So when I was trying to do the blanket stitch on the edge of the square, it was not piercing through the 2 layers of material, like at all. So I'm like, am I going to have to make a run to Michael's? Then I remembered, aha, I have a sewing kit that I don't use very much. And I did find a bunch of mine missing straight knitting needles because they were in that. So I was like, oh, bonus. But I did find a much pointier, and I've got my yarn attached to it because I needed a bigger eye so that I could fit. I'm using sock yarn, which is a 1/8. But I needed a much sharper, pointier tip so that it would pierce the fabric and come through easier, and it does. To the point where I noticed I actually bent the other one trying to get it to go through. So, my bad. I worked a lot this past week, just because I have to kind of pace myself with what I'm working with so I don't mess my hands and wrists up again. I did work a lot on, I got the tutorial out for week 4. Let's go with week 4 of the ABC alphabet blanket. So for those of you who have been working along and we're waiting for the next one, that did come out this week, if you're just watching this now. I do have it set over to the side, and I will be starting to work on the next section. And I have a couple other little smaller tutorials that I will work on in between, but I was working mostly on, still working on that tank top, getting near the end of it. And because I find, and I don't know if anyone else can relate to this, as a project gets bigger, it gets heavier. As it gets heavier, especially when you're knitting because you're holding it up, my hands tire quicker. So you can get those compression gloves to put on. Myself, it helped a little bit, but because my carpal tunnel was so bad at the time, they didn't really help a whole lot for me. But if you were to wear them on a regular basis before you develop any problems, because you don't want problems, they may be a great benefit to anybody who works continue like a longer period of time on a project. But it may not look like there's that much. Where's your drop stitches? All right, saved. Dropping a stitch is way worse than unraveling a few loops in your crochet, because when you drop a stitch, that can affect all the ones below it. So I tend to panic because I'm not that good at picking the stitches back up, especially when it's involved in a lace pattern. So crisis averted, no panic needed. I still panicked. So it may not look like I got a whole lot done, but I got probably a good 4 parts of the repeat done. So because this one's kind of a mental load, and it's not one that you can just like watch TV. And so I've been picking away. So I got about 4 of the repeats done. So that's not too bad. But the thing is, this is getting heavy. It's surprising how much this thing weighs. And I think I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again. Loops and threads, or we're going to have some words. This is the big ball, big cotton. And I have no idea how many factory knots I have come across in this one ball. I can understand a couple because it's a fairly big size ball. I kid you not, I bet you for a while there, every 4 or 5 feet, I had to redo a knot. And I despise weaving in ends. Despise it with a passion. So I'll do them because I know I have to. If it's a nice feeling cotton, doesn't feel scratched, like it's fairly soft, so it's going to turn out nice. But this is like the never-ending tank top, but it's getting there. So I worked on that. I did all the rows of the alphabet blanket. I had to upload, edit all the clips, get that together, export it, upload it back to YouTube, do all the stuff that's involved in the editing and posting. So we got that done. Life itself was busy, so I was going to go to Michael's to pick up some yarn yesterday, or Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday, yesterday. See, I don't even know what day it is. I opted not to because it's just been so hectic. We've been busy. So I thought, no, I'll do that on the weekend. I may, crossed, see if I can talk somebody else into coming with me and maybe make a video. Depending on how busy Michael's is, if I can kind of sneakily be stealthy and record something. Because not everybody's Michael's is the same. And I don't know how ours compares to everybody else's. Sometimes you see people posting videos, oh, here's what our Michael's has. And depending on your Michael, sometimes you have to have permission to record. I'm going to see if I can get away with it. I mean, I may see if I can, I'll see if I can find somebody manager-wise to say, listen, as long as I don't have customers in shot, would that be okay? So we'll see. So I worked on the sweater. I did the alphabet blanket. I did get some rows done of what I was going to call blueberries and cream, but I'm not using the blueberries and cream yarn, if that makes sense, because I'm using some stash yarn from the stash to figure that pattern out. I also did work on more of the sizing for the simple cardigan that we're going to be working on together as a knit along kind of thing. For anybody who's new, beginning, it's like going to be so beginner friendly. So I've been working on that behind the scenes. And I don't know, sometimes it's hard when you see a video that's posted on YouTube, you're like, oh, it's 15 minutes long. It didn't take 15 minutes to just make that 15-minute video. There's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. There's a lot of preparation. There's a lot of, like, especially when it comes to like a tutorial, sometimes you have to have samples. Sometimes you have to have like finished product to show beforehand and stuff like that. Sometimes you're recording and some of the clips may not turn out the way you want them to. So you have to unravel or unwind and work it up again so that you get it the way you want it to. So it's not always minute to minute. Sometimes that 15 minutes you see in the final product may have taken hours. And so, and not only that, I've been working a lot behind the scenes on things that you're not seeing, but that they're going to be coming to the channel. And I may not have mentioned them yet. So bear with me, because tonight's going to be more of a, here's what I've kind of been doing. Like today, I wound my bobbins and all that. I've got my sewing machine up and out and oiled and tuned up or whatever, ready to go, because it had been a while. It had sat for a while, so I figured I better kind of tune it up, which they recommend every now and then, depending on what your manufacturer's booklet says. So I've got all these ideas, and the thing is, it kind of goes back to me saying how sometimes things take longer than you realize because you only see the final product sometimes. So I'm trying to kind of wrap my head around, okay, it should take me this long to do it ahead of time and then show you how to do it. And then, so I'm trying to plan things so that they'll come out in a timely manner, like especially if it's like a holiday related thing. I want you guys to have time to make it, and especially if it's like for a gift or if you want to do craft fair stuff. If it's something I'm doing along that lines, I don't want to have it be, oh, here's December 10th and here's a video on how to make something for Christmas. That won't work, right? Like if there's something like that, you're going to want it well ahead of time. So I'm kind of trying to make myself a schedule, I guess, in a way. But I also don't want to burn myself out. I don't want to try to make things in such a time crunch that what I do upload, I'm not happy with, because I know sometimes instructions need to be broken down in greater detail. If there's newer people doing, to some people watching it, they might like be like, oh, that makes sense. I don't need you to explain that any further. But there could be people watching that don't understand. And so I'm trying to cover it in such a way that no matter your level of understanding the crochet or the knit, or just where you're at in your learning experience with that method, it's covered. So there may be some instructions that are more simple for some people, but those simpler instructions may be a huge benefit to somebody else. And it may make the difference in them feeling confident enough to make the project and be successful in making the project and feel good about what they've done. So, and there's some things we're learning along the way together here, like this fusion quilting. Yeah, I had a couple of mistakes that I had to try to. So it was, I made a couple boo-boos. And the thing is, I'm going to be sure to have that ironed out before I make the videos about it, so that you don't make the same mistakes. I may mention them just as a warning, so that I'm like, no, this is what I did. It works out in the end, but it made it awful lot harder. So we'll see. But I don't have any new yarn to show. I have been trying to see some of the yarn sales, if there's any, but even with the shipping and stuff, like I was looking at, who was it? I don't know if it was Ice Yarns, that even with the shipping, because of the sales they had on, when you factor in, they sell them by the packs. So it may say it's $8.99, but that's for a pack of 4. So the thing is, when you add up what you're buying. Oh, Angelina, thanks for the sub to the channel. Appreciate it. Hope you find tons of different things that interest you here. There's lots of other videos. So the thing is, when you put stuff in your cart and then you see how much your shipping is going to be, and you're like, oh my God, that's expensive for shipping. But the thing is, you got to consider, say your order came to $40 and say the shipping was $35. So that's $75. But say you're getting like 15 skeins of yarn. When you do the math per skein, in some cases, it works out to be cheaper than if you were to go to, say, Michael's to buy something. So you have to look at the cost per skein as your final thing to see what the value is you're getting. And that's kind of going to be the same whether you're getting Mary Maxim, Yarn Inspirations, what have you. So if you're, or Wool Warehouse, if you're ordering from any of the companies, see what your shipping is going to be. For us Canadians, we have to factor in, are we going to get dinged for duty? There are some yarn companies, I love them. They will flat out say to you, you can have up to X number of value dollars before shipping, and that box will not be charged duty because it's below the threshold. They've figured it out for you, and they've made it easy for you. And you can get like a certain weight, as long as it's below a certain weight and below a certain dollar value, you're duty free. So appreciate that. So I think it was Ice Yarns, they offer you the option of standard ground mail, or you can pay to have FedEx or DHL, or a shipping company. The shipping companies are faster, but the cost of your shipping goes way up. And you may incur duty or service fees from that shipping company, even though there was no duty through the mail. So maybe a little slower through the mail, but you're going to save yourself some money. So something to think about. And it's something when you're looking at some of these online sites, sometimes the shipping seems a lot, but when you do the math and then you price it out per skein of what you're buying, sometimes you're like, it's still too much. I'm not paying that. But sometimes, depending on the sales that are going on, very reasonable. So it's worthwhile paying that little extra for the shipping than going to a store and hoping they have what you're looking for. That's all I'm saying about that. So I haven't ordered anything from Ice Yarns before, but I've seen, I watch a lot of other creators, and I've seen some of their yarn hauls, and I'm like, that's really pretty. And that would make, a really nice blanket. But then I would go and I'd look at the shipping, and I'm like, I can't justify it for what I'd be buying. And then I'm like, well, when they're on sale, and then I'm like, well, that's when I figured out, I'm looking at this the wrong way. I have to look at the cost per yarn ball. So whenever so now I'm keeping an eye on some of the sales, just in case there's some yarns that aren't readily accessible here in stores and stuff like that. Or I can't find anything equivalent locally. So I will look. We might do a yarn haul from somewhere one of these days. So, you know how they always say, I won't have to tell you that I've won the lotto, but there'll be signs when a big yarn order shows up. You'll know. Part of my problem is storage too. And I'm the type of person, I love seeing the creative, all these people that have the huge yarn walls behind them and stuff like that. And I did at one point, but sometimes I find it overwhelming because I'm like, I should make this project out of this. And then I'm like, well, no, I should start with this yarn and I'll make this. Sometimes I'm better off keeping the yarn I have for my projects to a minimum so that I do start a project and I do finish a project, because the number of whips I have right now that I can remember is probably more than I should have. And part of the problem is I'm like, ooh, shiny. Ooh, look at that pattern. Oh, that yarn's nice. I could do this. Well, what about all the ones I already have on the go that I haven't finished yet? I'm trying to be more conscious of what I've started and haven't finished so that I can focus on something and get it finished. And as I've mentioned before, I want to get the Etsy shop back up and going and do product drops where I'll have say I have 10 blankets ready to go. Those 10 blankets, post them for sale. Once they're gone, they're gone. And then I may do that a few times a year, just kind of as things build up, we'll do that. There may be some stuff that dishcloths and just simple things that are there on a regular, But the big product stuff, like baby sweaters, I've got tons of like sweaters and blankets and stuff like that. It can be the same way with video games. Exactly. You see a new game coming out and you're like, oh, I'm going to play that. Well, you haven't finished the other game that you've got like hours into. So it's true. And it's like, sometimes you just, the inspiration hits you because you're like, oh, look at that yarn. That's new. I should get that. And I find, depending on where you're located and like what your access to like yarn stores and the such are, like I know down in the States, they have a few more options than they up here in Canada. Like you have Hobby Lobby, you had Joann's, RIP. You have Michael's. There's another one though, but like you can get Premier, you have access to some a little more readily than here in Canada. So sometimes when I'm in Michael's or Walmart or somewhere that they do have yarn, and I'm like, oh shoot, that's somewhat new. They don't get restocked very much. And if I see that there's enough for a project, I'm like, I wonder if I should grab it. I don't always. I can behave when I need to. But sometimes it's like, should I grab it while I have the opportunity? But then I grab it and I'm like, oh, I've got a bag of that yarn. I'll try to figure out a pattern for it. I'll stare at it. I'm like, that's exactly what I'll do. Shoot, I need to get this finished for so-and-so. I need to go back to that. So I find sometimes I was hopping around to different whips, and then sometimes it would be bad enough. I'm like, shoot, I need that size J crochet hook and it's in this project. I'll take it and I'll put it back when I'm done and use it for whatever the project was. And then I go back to go to that whip. I'm like, shoot, what was my hook size? Because I took it out. So now, and that's where my little book has come in perfectly handy. And I've shown this to you before. My crochet logbook. I use it for more than that. I use it for my knitting and that too. But like it works out great. Like I'll write down what the pattern book. Oh, that's where I started to write out a pattern. When I get ideas and I'm like laying there and I can't sleep. I'm like, I could do this. So then I just start writing it down and then I just tuck it in a book. But this has been great. And I'm mentioning it again because there was a couple of projects that I would write down the information and the crochet hook size or the needle sizes or whatever. And then if for some reason it was a whip that was set off to the side and I borrowed the hook or something out of it, or I didn't quite remember what I was doing, I have all these notes that I write with it. Because if I'm working on something and I make adjustments as I'm going, because like this, like I've shown it before, one of the sweaters I was making, when I was starting to do the sleeve, I'm like, this sleeve's gonna be too big. This isn't gonna work. So I started writing myself some notes, and I have down a piece of the yarn, the label from the yarn wrapper, the needles, the different size, what my gauge ended up being for the sizes I wanted. So it works out well because if I have a whip and it sits there for a while, I can go back to this and see just what the details were and kind of save myself. And it saves a lot of headaches. But something I also do is I attach my receipts for any of the yarn I get for that project. So then when I'm all done, because there have been times where I'm like for example, the tank top. I'm like, if I do it nice in such a way, I think I can get away with one of the big skeins might be okay. And I'm like, I'll start with the one if I need to, because it's no dye lot. With the cotton yarn I chose. If I need to, I can go back and just grab another one. That's what I did, because sure enough, by the time I ended up taking out those factory knots, I ended up having to buy a second skein. So I keep track of a cost of something, which is important because if I'm going to be putting some of these items on the Etsy shop, like blankets and such, I need to know what my final cost was, plus my rate I would use for my out, like, so I can charge appropriately without seeming to either get, I don't want to overcharge, but I also, I'm not giving it away kind of thing. Like, and not only that, like, there's a couple of entries in here where I made a sweater for myself. Because typically what happens when I'm doing a sweater, especially if it's one I'm trying to figure out for myself, like that I don't have a pattern I bought. And I have to figure things out, like just for like the overall fit and the such. It's not too hard to do it for myself because I can try on my whip as I'm going. I can make adjustments for myself as I'm going. Once I get that settled, then if I turn around, like I made a sweater for myself and I turn around, I made my mother one. I knew size-wise what the difference roughly is between her and I could make the adjustments based on what I had in here for me. So something like this, I think it's only like $10 or $15. Heck, you could turn around and probably just print some sheets off and keep it in a binder and just have like some of the basic information and keep a binder of all your stuff. It's really good because there could be something where it comes up, someone will say, oh, you know that blanket you made, 4 or 5 years ago, could you make me that? And I'm like, what was that pattern? Was that one of mine, or was that something I bought or got online? So that I can go back and I can kind of look and pin down, narrow down what it was, how much it cost, and the such. So it's very useful, very useful. So I do recommend. This is one of the things, like a receipt for something. Okay. There's not a whole lot of like crafting supplies that I'm like, you need. This is something you need to have this. Something like this, whether it's like an actual book or just a binder with some printed off sheets you can fill in, is one of the things I swear by. I really do. But other than that, there's some tools that I'm like, why pay a huge amount of money for some things when you can find something at the dollar store that will work just as well for you? Because everything's so expensive these days that if there's something you can find that's more affordable that will do the trick, go for it. Like my interchangeable knitting needles that I have, just because I was used to just getting a circular needle or using straight needles when I first dove into getting the interchangeable, because I'm like, I'm going to have to buy like multiple different circulars, different lengths, different sizes. I'm like, so then I just went looking. I got I just noticed my stitch markers come up. When I wanted to do the interchangeables, and I don't know if I mentioned this before, I got a set off of Amazon. I think it was $35. I've been using them now for 2-3 years. Love them. They're metal. And the wire is a coat of metal. And they stay nice and tight. They don't give me any issue. They don't untwist. They're comfortable. They slide really well with the yarn. There's no snags. I've seen, like, I know when you're, my husband says, oh, what would you like for Christmas? And this was when I was kind of looking around. I said, those needles are so expensive. Like the Chagu, and like, mind you, the quality is probably a little bit better or a lot better. But for what I'm doing, and are they comfortable? Do they do what they need to do? Starting out, especially if you're not sure about using interchangeables or even knitting, say you're just taking it up and you're learning, great starter set. Don't go spending hundreds of dollars until you know it's something you really want to invest in or can afford to invest in. Stuff like this, I find, should be affordable. It should be something you're doing it either as a hobby, maybe you want to sell at craft fairs. It's something that you want to be able to enjoy and not break the bank, if that makes sense. It needs to be accessible to everybody from all levels of pay. Like, just because it's crocheting or knitting, you shouldn't have to make a 6-figure salary. Just saying. You're doing it to relax. You're doing it to take off some of that mental load. You don't want to add to it by breaking the bank buying hooks and the such. Like my hooks, here's my fancy holder. Nothing drastic. Does a trick. Are there things out there that, would be nicer? Sure. I have limited space on my desk. This does the trick. I also have a bag. There's tons of hooks I have in different sizes that I never use that size. So I put them in a Ziploc bag and just tuck them away. But like, I don't have any fancy hooks. And for how many times I drop my hooks, probably just as well I don't have any of the ones that break easily because I probably would have went through them and then I'd be out. Some of those are $20, $30 a hook. So if that's what you use, you can afford it and you enjoy them, power to you. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying I use what's affordable. I make do with what I have and I enjoy using what I have. And as long as you're making things you enjoy and things that's all that matters. So anyway, enough rant and raving. I'm going to switch over to the craft camera here. And as you can see, and I'm going to take my watch off because it's going to rattle against the table. I have quilted together. And by quilted, I mean I've sewn, I put the wrong sides together and I sewed a seam 1/4 inch around each side, except I left about 2 inches. And this was one of my issues. I had left not a big enough opening to do what I wanted to do. So going forward, I would make the opening a little bigger. Then I turned it right side out and I didn't bother ironing it. I just kind of like flattened it with my hands. And then, I don't know if you can see, I did a real close stitch along the edge, which is kind of flattened and sealed that. And then I went back around 1/4 inch seam allowance, which is basically the width of my presser foot, and just stitch around. Because now I'm going in to do the blanket stitch. And this one's a little rough looking, only because I was trying to do it with the darning needle. So I'm using, for my yarn here, I'm just using the Patent Croy Socks in black because I wanted it sturdier than embroidery floss, the DMC floss. So what's going to happen is when we get to the end here, this one will get pulled over a little bit. It's just kind of, so I'm going to blanket stitch around it. And then when I have all my squares done, I'm also going to just maybe quilt some little designs just to kind of hold it, to give it a bit more of a quilted feel for the inside of the square, okay? But once we get the blanket stitch around, then the crocheting happens. You will be crocheting and using your hook in these stitches and we'll make our border, and that's how the squares will be joined as well. So I'm trying to figure, I'm going to get the squares done first. And just as a reminder, this is the blue I'm going to use for the border, which is the Cairn 1 pound in Midnight Blue. Okay. So in one of the other I'll post the links to all the materials I use when I go to post the tutorial, which is going to be a little bit before that shows up on the channel, but it will come. I'll post the links to everything that I got, because I got the squares. They're already pre-cut from Amazon. The batting I got from Amazon. The yarn I got from Michaels and the such. So the pre-cut squares were very reasonable, and you got 50 squares. So I didn't have to bother cutting and measuring and all that. I did have to cut the batting because I just bought a 60 by 60 batting, but that's not a big deal. So notice I got a little thread, and I just used thread that I had here from other projects. So and I'm trying to decide when I go to do quilting, like for this, I may even just quilt a little bit around a few of the flowers, nothing fancy. Just something to just kind of like give it more of the quilt feel. All right. So I tried to cut enough yarn so that I won't have to start and stop as I'm going around. And as I said, I have a much pointier needle. You can kind of see that better. Let me show you, because there's what I was trying to use. It's dull and it's a lot bigger. So it was leaving, you can see here, this is one of the ones, the hole's a lot bigger. So I didn't want to really do that. So I'm trying to paste these out. And remember when I said I did a second stitch, a second seam, a 1/4 inch in, because that's where I'm using that line to measure how far in I'm putting my blanket stitch. So, and I'm going in from the back to the front, and I'm going the same direction every time. I have a cut on my finger, and every time I grab the needle, that's where it seems to grab, and of course it hurts. So the blanket stitch, I always put my finger to hold the loop, because you're going to pull that back through. And then that's that. So what all have you worked on this week? Anything interesting? Anything fun? Did you finish any of your whips? Oh, come on. It doesn't help that my fingers aren't cooperating. But yeah, what all have you been up to this week? Also, too, where are you watching from? Because that always interests me. It's not that I'm nosy. It's just I'm interested. Nice production picture in pressure. You like that? I did at one point have the chat up. I don't understand why that is doing that. I don't understand why that chat. Okay, I did used to have the chat up in the other blank spot, but it was a little too crowded. So I do have the chat going in a separate window over here, but for whatever reason, it's not updating like it should. So another thing, one of the things YouTube announced this week. Why am I? I split the yarn. That's what the problem is. Sorry, I got a mess going on here. YouTube has changed the way views and all that work for channels. And then soon they're going to change the requirements for monetization and such. Oh, now I made it worse. Isn't this fantastic? Well, we'll figure this out together here. Okay, it's coming from there. Apparently I put the needle through the yarn, unbeknownst to myself. So now I gotta get it back through. I don't understand how I did that. Let's just do that, shall I? And then put that through there. We'll figure it out here. We'll get it back to where we want it to be. Okay, now I gotta try to thread this needle again. Oh, I'm trying to use a yarn ball as a mouse. I got problems. All right. There we go. So we'll go like that. Oh, okay. So that works. So what was I saying? So they're changing the requirements and such, but if you happen to reach the current requirements before the changes take effect, you're grandfathered in. So this is why I appreciate the support to the channel more than you can realize, because I'm getting closer to reaching the milestones, and if I can manage to get grandfathered in, all the better. So I need to get my watch hour. I already have the subscribers and stuff. I just need to get my watch hours up, and I'd be good. So me having had to take that break a while ago didn't do me any favors in that department, because if you're not posting regularly, it can affect your channel. And unfortunately, I was forced to take the break. So all right, let's come back to this. And I'm all tangled again. This yarn may not have been the best solution for this, but I have a long piece because I didn't want to have to start and stop kind of thing. All right, if we take our top, see, it's I don't understand. Oh, because it's trying to pull through too many things. The long tail's catching. I see. All right. I see what the issue is. It was me. All right, so careful not to split the yarn with the needle. Kind of bring that, stretch that over so it'll line up nicely. Because I had pulled on it when I was trying to fix things. So I'm trying to keep it as even as possible. And my whole thought was, I was trying to like roughly sketch out where I would need to put stitches. And you think I'll get it back? I hope so. I hope so. There is a deadline for that though. That's the only part. So I'm kind of on a time crunch. So I think this fusion quilting thing is going to be quite interesting when all is said and done. So I know this week coming up, I have to, because it took me longer to record that week of the alphabet blanket than I anticipated. So I want to give myself a bit more time to get the next one done. And if you're working on the alphabet blanket along with us, one of the things I mentioned in this week's video was that going forward, some of the more simpler rows that are repetitive, as we go on, I'm going to focus more on just the letter part and give you homework to get you to where you need to be for the following weeks. And it's going to be stuff that you've already, that might have been in week 1 and 2 and even 3, but that you had access to, just so that the videos aren't like an hour and a half long and we can get through and get the letters done. I think this is going to be pretty when it's done. Because I had debated what color to get for the blanket stitch, but I think this is going to come along pretty good. I need to find, I do have a thimble somewhere. One of the things I think my mother-in-law does or did was when she couldn't find her thimble, she just used the back of a spoon. I think that, excuse me, I had the hiccups. I think that was her. It's going to take a bit because I'm not used to I'm taking my time because I want to try to get it even. So, and my fingers just don't want to cooperate. And having that cut there is not helping at all. So, there we go. So I'm hoping between now and next Thursday, I'm going to have hopefully a couple of these done and fully done to show you just what the squares are going to be. And then the tutorial will end up coming to the channel. But that'll be, and then the corners have a diagonal one and then another straight one. So I think that's going to be, it's going to be pretty when it's done. So, so yeah, this week coming, I plan on working on this a little bit to hopefully have at least one fully completed to show you next week. And I'm going to bring, I think, a knit tutorial for something simple. Just like it'll be a short one because it's just going to be like a different kind of cast on. And we'll have our live Thursday. And I'm going to try to get the ABC done. And then I think the next bigger project is going to be the Sunshine and Rainbows blanket. I'm going to get the tutorial film for that and get that up for you guys. If you have any suggestions on things you would like to see that I haven't covered, that if it's something I can cover, put it in the comments, let me know. Because if it's something I can do, I'll gladly add it to the list of things to get done. And if there's any of the tutorials from the past that you're watching and trying to carry out, If you have any questions about those, let me know. So you can always just leave a comment in the comment section, or you can come to the lives and throw the comment in the chat, and I'll do my best to answer it. And again, though, thank you for all the support to the channel. I do appreciate it. And as I said, hopefully we'll get to that milestone. I think what I might do, if we can get to our 2,000 subs, we may have a bit of a little celebration giveaway at the 2,000. We have a little ways to go, but it's something to give yourself. I'd like to give myself a little bit of a milestone, something to work towards. See if we can build a community. We have a Facebook group, but it's just, I think, me and one other person. I had a Facebook group set up for the channel ages ago, but apparently I hadn't set it up correctly. So I had to restart it. I think if you type in that, it should give the link to the yeah, it gives the group. So if it's something you're interested in, feel free to join. It's a private group. So I'm trying to keep bots and scammers and all that stuff out. So if it's something you're interested in, we could build that community up, and people can post their projects, questions that maybe someone else have answers to. Just a like-minded community kind of thing. It can be for any kind of craft. It can be crocheting, knitting, needlepoint, cross stitch, you name it. So yeah. So I hope you had a good week. I appreciate you stopping in or watching the replay if that's what you've been doing. Lots of fun things coming to the channel. I don't want to give it all away, but there's some things coming. And there's going to be a mixture of different skill levels. So I'm going to have stuff for anywhere from beginner, intermediate, advanced, and there could be something more towards a skilled level. I don't like to try to do too skilled a level because I don't want to exclude other people either. You know what I mean? Everybody can do the beginner, intermediate, and stuff like that. But when you start getting into the too advanced stuff, that might be beyond intimidating for some. And I don't think that's fair. So we'll see. I haven't decided yet. But yeah, good week, busy week. Hope yours was too. Hope yours wasn't as busy. I appreciate your support of the channel, and I look forward to continuing to see you in chat or commenting on the videos. Because when you like and subscribe and hype all the stuff up to do with videos, it does help the channel. It does help the algorithm put it out there to other people who may not normally see it, which is actually a huge help, because who knows? Like, there could be something somebody likes or shares or whatever, and all of a sudden someone else is like, oh, I didn't know that, I'll watch that, and they're like, oh, that's interesting. Because I know I've found some other content creators, just through the algorithm that I normally wouldn't have looked for, and it's worked out great because now I got other content I can enjoy watching myself. So I would love to be able to grow the channel and the community especially. So if that's something you're willing to help with, I appreciate you even more. If you're here to just watch and learn and enjoy yourself, that's fine too. But I think I'm going to wrap it up for this week. Next week, hopefully, I'll have some yarn. And we'll see what's going on. And hopefully I'm going to have that dang tank top finished. It seems to be never ending. I'll have it ready for next year for the summer. But yeah, lots of things coming. So stick around if you can. And hopefully there's going to be something for everybody. So I know not every pattern, every design is for everybody, but there's hopefully something there along the way that is for everybody. Okay. So take care. I wish you a good week, and I hope none of your yarn gets all fuzzy and nothing shrinks. And I hope you can maybe wrap up one of your whips and be excited about starting a new project. And I will see you next week. And stay tuned for the uploads. Don't forget to hit the bell if you hit the subscribe button so you know when new content is posted, okay? So, all right, take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye.